as a relative of a dementia resident in a dementia unit, it's very important to develop positive, well-informed relationships with the staff in the unit. Now, generally, relationship is encouraged through the clinical manager and the charge nurse. All communication goes through them, but it's also important to develop communication and positive relationship with the lower tier, like the carers, for example. They're extremely important with your mother's cares, of course. She spends a lot of time with your mother with the showering and the caring and the dressing, and she will know the day-to-day goings on of your mother. You may be informed that your mother's not sleeping well, but then in fact the carer may say, well, I've heard that actually she isn't doing that well at night. So in this way, if you can just sort of work through from different angles and perspectives with the various staff, then the overall theme you're more likely to get. So for example, if in the clinical notes it's written that your mother's sleeping well, but the carer has said to you that the night staff have mentioned to her that she's not sleeping well, it could be any number of things. It could be that she's having too much caffeine and coffee in the afternoon shift, so you can work out what she's having in the morning and afternoon tea. And the best way of going about things is just being on site, honestly. It's just go in at that time, go in at morning and afternoon tea and see what your mother's drinking. If she's drinking caffeine, afternoon tea, or caffeine, cup of coffee after dinner at night, that's the problem with the sleeping, chances are. So then you could put a process in place for that to be changed and go to the clinical manager or the charge nurse and say, you know, mum needs to go on to decaf, and I'll bring in decaf coffee for her, or whatever the situation is. So if your mother is not sleeping well at night, it may be that she's stressed and upset and lonely. So if you go in, say, 7 o'clock at night before she goes to sleep, if you spend half an hour with her, maybe having a cup of tea while she has her decaf coffee, just reminiscing and being with her and having a chat, it may well calm her down enough to be able to sleep at night. And, you know, this is a great help. So in terms of being well informed, boots on the ground, getting to know the staff, getting the updates, top down, clinical manager, charge nurse down, bottom up, carers, and up the tier. Don't forget the laundry girls and the cleaners. They are really helpful, wonderful, kind, caring people. They do so much for those dementia residents, which people just do not realise. They're in the dementia residence room every day. The cleaner comes in and does the vacuuming and dusting and cleaning the bathroom daily. And the laundry girls come in each day to deliver the clean laundry. And they always have a nice word for the residents and become their friends. Those residents that aren't out in the lounge and are in their room really enjoy meeting the lovely cleaners and laundry girls. They're always friendly and nice, and they often make special effort to solve problems for the resident. Like if they are in pain, they sometimes even go to the nurse to say that the resident is in pain. If they need a glass of water, they'll get them a glass of water. If they meet you as a relative, they'll give you a little update on maybe your mother's asked for a magazine. So this is why it's very important to go through all the tiers of communication. So that's one thing. Second thing, clinical notes. Get a copy of the clinical notes. Then you'll get to see everything that's happening from managerial level. The medications, the doctor's notes, the daily clinical notes, behaviour of your mother, your parent, etc. Levels of anxiety, levels of depression, is there any anger outbursts? All this information you will get to know in the clinical notes, and the dosage of medication, the types of medication, when it's administered, and if there's any side effects with that. Now, it's an enormous amount of information in the clinical notes, which it's very hard to garner through one-to-one correspondence. though that's important for the day-to-day, the clinical notes gives the more medical side of things, which it's important to be updated on, especially for the doctor's meetings, which is where all the decisions about your parents' care will be made. So if you're informed, you've read the notes, when you go to the doctor's meeting, you can ask well-informed questions and get well-informed answers. Otherwise, you can be kept in the dark quite easily because no one's got time to explain everything to you. It's much easier to say, Mum's fine and it's all right, than explain to you all the nuances and details and complications and this and that that goes on in a dementia unit. Now, in terms of the clinical notes and getting a copy of the clinical notes, you need to have, if you're a sibling, say, you need to have the okay of the power of attorney to get the clinical notes. So if you are the brother and your sister is the power of attorney, you need to have her okay to get the clinical notes. Now, usually, I'd say 90% of the time, the power of attorney tends to be the daughter living in the same city or nearby of the mother who's in the dementia unit. So if you're the brother, you need to get the permission of your sister to get the clinical notes. Now, hopefully there's a good relationship and it's easy for that to happen. Sometimes it can be a challenge, but if you're obviously a supportive relative, you visit your mother regularly and the staff know you, they may give you a copy, but chances are, most of the time you'll need to get your sister's permission, the power of attorney's permission. So one way or another, it's important for that to happen. Then at the doctor's meetings especially, that's where the medication is adjusted. So if you think that your mother is maybe getting too much medication and that she's, developed stumbling gait, Parkinson's type symptoms, tremor, sometimes that can be symptom related from the medication. So it's good just to be able to discuss that through with the doctor and see if medication can be modified if you think that the medication is too much. And also with the clinical notes, it's good to go through it with another medical friend, family member, or someone you know. Not Google, but someone experienced in the field with medication. I'm a physiotherapist, I'm not a nurse, so medication's not my field, but I do know the signs and symptoms, especially the symptoms of Parkinson's condition, with many of these medications that dementia residents get to settle them down. So it's important to be able to modify that. Now, the other thing is, in terms of activities of daily living, just make sure that your mother is receiving the care she needs. Hopefully that's happening, but not to be overly cared for. If your mother is independent with showering when she goes into the dementia unit, you don't then want the carers showering her. And this sometimes does happen through poor communication, that it's not informed, the carers aren't informed with the initial assessment when the person comes in that the resident is independent with showering. So just make sure that your mother is still doing what she can do with showering, even if she's able to shower herself, but she needs a bit of help with drying or whatever. The best thing really, once again, is to come at the time of showering and then talk to the carer and discuss with her what help your mother's getting and what your mother is well able to do. But just keep it in a timely pace, because if your mother is being showered and she's been independent, but she's starting to lose some independence because of being showered daily by someone else, that skill can quickly go. So that's really, when the person first goes into the dementia unit, it really is best to go there daily. Honestly, there's so much to work out. You can ease it up after that, but every second day, just to keep up with things. So these two books, The Resident's Voice and The Resident's Rise, I've written, both on Amazon. And thank you for your likes and support, and please subscribe.